Anand played this move, king f7, which, you know, maybe is clever in its own right, because in this position, you know, bishop c4 is covered by the knight at the moment, so that diagonal is not a major problem. And, you know, maybe, you know, rook h8, and then there might be a counter-attack even if white's not careful. But unfortunately, all these ambitions were blown apart with Topalov's next move. I wonder if you can spot it. So this move, king f7, was drastically punished. If I give you 5 seconds, either stop the video or just use the 5 seconds to find white's next move. Okay, starting from now. Okay, white played this knight takes f6, so a whole piece sacrifice. But remember the positional factors. These rooks, the bishop is not developed, the knight's on, you know, out of play. So let's see, if queen takes f6, this is not what happened. But, you know, maybe e5 here is very dangerous. I don't really want to get in all the technical details, but I think that if queen e5, queen g5, that looks extremely dangerous for a start, let alone other possibilities. But in the game, king takes f6, and now the continuation is revealed, rook h3. And it seems these rooks have a lust to connect to each other now. So that this rook via the h file and this rook via the c file, they're going to meet each other for an attack, a joint attack on the black king. So Anand tried to defend with rook g8, trying to hold on to g5 at least in this storm. So check, king f7, and now the rooks start meeting each other via the c7 square. So two doubled rooks on the 7th rank. It spells a total disaster for black because he still hasn't managed to resolve basic issues like connecting rooks, you know, developing the bishop and this knight on the edge. So we have rook h7. And you might ask here, you know, maybe, you know, rook g7. Why wasn't rook g7 played? Well, that's a good question, and and without turning on an engine, I'm sure there's a refutation here. Maybe just queen takes g5, uses that pin, and then check. That would be kind of dangerous, if nothing else. But rook g7 wasn't played. Please post the technical reasons, you know, in comments for the video. But from a fundamental point of view, the rooks are now being connected. So king e7, and now rook c7. So white's pieces are all aggressively placed. This bishop, seemingly passive at the moment, is on the verge of springing to life with Topalov's next move. So after king d8, Topalov plays now bishop b5. And there's really menacing threats now, using the fact the rooks are both on the 7th. So the threat of rook d7 takes, takes, and if king e8, rook d5, that's a big threat. And you may wonder, you know, also about king c8, but this queen can also come to the c file, so bear that in mind. In the game, Anand apparently played queen takes e4. And the game finished with a sparkling move. I wonder if you can spot it here. If I give you, say, 10 seconds from this position. So the game ended with this next move. So start thinking about it, or stop the video now. Okay, Topalov played rook takes c8. So let's see. Now this is something I have concretely analysed a bit and explained on Chessbowl Forum why black resigned. So let's take this continuation, rook takes c8 first, rook d7 check, and now rook takes d4. It's winning the black queen. So winning material, massive material advantage. That will be the end of the game there. So you might ask, well, hold on, king takes c8 is possible. Yes, but again, the c7 square becomes the focal point for coordinating these white pieces. In this position, there's a technical move, unfortunately, a technical detail, which blows black's position apart. I wonder if you can spot it, if I give you 5 seconds here. Okay, it will be queen c1. And now, if the king moves, say b8, then that's a straightforward mate. Or king d8, it's a very straightforward like mating pattern. Well, it's mate there actually, because the bishop's stopping the king going to e8. If black wanted to put up a little bit of resistance here, then knight c6 becomes one of the only legal moves. But now, instead of white here would win material, not with queen takes c6, because remember he's already sacrificed pieces. So queen takes, bishop takes, and black lives on for another day. We'll say rook b8. But unfortunately in this position, if knight c6 is used as a defensive resource, bishop takes c6, and look at that, forking the queen and rook. So here, if queen takes f5, then we have bishop e4 check, I guess, discovered attack on the queen as well as the king. So nope, that wouldn't be good. Or it might be okay if queen c5 takes, then take on a8. That might work, but and there's also other attractive. I think this is actually much stronger because it will be a double check against the black king. So double check. So the black king moves, and now bishop takes f5. So that move is out of the question. So say queen e3 check. White could just take the queen now safely and take the rook. e2, you just play king f2 or rook e7. So that would be a whole bishop up, winning on material. So that's why in the final position it's hopeless after rook takes c8. Unfortunately, Topalov didn't consider the brilliant idea, well, from Anand's perspective, of playing queen takes g5, trying to mate with the rooks, because here Anand would have king takes c7 and he would be laughing all the way to the bank here. So that would be a huge blunder to play queen takes g5. So no, rook takes c8, clinical finishing off move. Let's have a look in overview and summary at this game, which I've really skimmed over, but I'd like to avoid all the masses of complications which are underneath the surface of this game. I just want to focus on the strategic aspects. So we start off with a Gruenfeld, where white, instead of content to passively defend his centre, turns this whole thing into a gambit system, where he's sacrificing a centre pawn for quite a crude looking attack, with potentially f4 and f5, crude but effective. And positionally motivated, because black was unable in this game to connect the rooks or get the knight off the edge, or even develop the bishop effectively. A lot of commentators are saying that Anand could have tightened up the defence a little bit, especially by not playing the move king f7 in the critical moment. So he reached this critical moment with rook f3 and bishop d7. Now I had originally done a lot of analysis in this, and I was going to present it in a 3-part video, but it did become excessively, detailed. Suffice to say that even in this position, in a summary from all that analysis I did, it looks as though white still has a dangerous position here, with the knight sack still. I don't want to go into it in great detail, but it doesn't look that brilliant, because these centre pawns can become important trump cards after the knight sack, and g5 would still be weak. I don't really trust this structure. Maybe Anand will repeat this position and get to it and play bishop d7. It will be interesting to find out, if Topalov would still sack a piece, because his knight's now on the edge. Potentially, if black's got connected rooks, he's got a lot more potential to defend now and start playing moves like rook c8. So it's a bit tragic that he wasn't really able in this first game to complete his development. He played this move king f7 and knight takes f6. Maybe he could have just resigned here. It's just horrible that this first World Championship game he wasn't able to develop properly. But hindsight is great. I've seen game 2 and Anand bounced back in game 2, which I'm going to be covering next. So today is a rest day, a good day for me to catch up on these videos. So rook h3, it's just really, really dangerous here. Rook g8, the rook's connecting on the 7th rank is always a sign that usually the person with the rooks on the 7th in the middle game, it's usually lethal. It's worth a piece. So king d8, and now this move bishop b5. So in this position, by the way, let's have a look. Queen takes c7. I don't think that was great because queen takes d4. And then so if bishop d7, rook takes d7, there's so much pressure on d7. So poor Anand, queen takes e4, rook takes c8. An unfortunate first game, where black's pieces were not really outside of the box. They didn't really develop or even connect rooks. Okay, please leave any comments or questions on YouTube. Thanks very much.